I was doing all the things. I was eating a sandwich, I think, while I was, typing out an email, and then someone was coming into my office, asked me whatever, it was chaos. And I remember thinking, okay, every day I say I'm going to like take a walk around the block here, and every day I end up just doing this. So maybe today I'll actually do it. And I just got up from and it wasn't even, I didn't even think that through that way that I'm saying it. That just sort of spontaneously was like, get your butt up and go for that little walk that you said, right? And I did. I went for that walk. And then when I got back, I did something really curious. Like I had this, again, almost, I can't even say that it was a voice, but it was like just a knowing to just turn my phone off for a little bit. And I closed my office door, turned my phone off. Okay, we don't always have that luxury, but you could, if you're in corporate, you could rent out a conference room for a couple minutes, whatever it looks like, but or book it out. But you can find these little spaces. And what happened to me when I did that actually was, instead of going back to my email, which I once heard of as the best way I ever heard it defined was a great organizing mechanism for other people's priorities.
Right.
Okay. So instead of going back to my email and all that other noise in my phone or email, I decided that I was going to work on this project that I had been putting off for a long time. Like I knew it was important, but it wasn't urgent, and I had been putting it off. And I'm telling you, it was kind of almost miraculous, because I got through this thing and it was a great result. I remember I presented it to my company and everything. Everybody was really happy. But the cool thing was, I went home right after that. Normally I would have stayed longer, whatever. I just went back home. And I was just, again, it was that kind of relax, like, it's okay. Just sort of, yeah, there are all these things going on. And you also can just take a moment, take a breath, maybe get outside if you can, turn something off for a few minutes so you can actually address that thing you've been putting off. And you'll find your own pockets for this. Like, I think it's really hard when people, especially when they start out the new year and they're thinking, oh man, now I got to do all these things and I got to change all this stuff and I got to do a radical, new me or whatever. And that never really works, because it sets off alarms all throughout just the way that we're built. It's not normally going to work unless you've been in a really dire situation. And this is like, life or death type of thing. But for most of us, it's going to work maybe for a couple of days, and then we're going to fall back into our same routine. So one of the things I would highly suggest is like, start small where you can. Just notice, like, you'll start to notice more. You'll find more spaces. And then the thing that's critical about like the morning and the night, especially just those first minutes, is that frequency question that we were talking about. Because a lot of us can't take the whole morning, or we can't take a big chunk in the evening, whatever. We got all this other stuff going on, fine. You'll notice that you'll start to be able to take more of it when you are taking advantage of that prime time, because there really is a prime time. Your organism is at its optimal, right? That like especially when you wake up, and it's just a few minutes, but you can bet your bottom dollar that if in those few minutes you reach over for your phone, you start, waking up, like to your point, with other people's priorities, all of a sudden that sense of overwhelm and anxiety and frustration about not being able to get done what you got done is augmented, because the moment that your brain is most programmable. This is what we have to pause on this point. Your brain is most programmable first thing in the morning and last thing at night, or right before you doze off and right when you come out of sleep, period. And you're just in a different brainwave frequency. If you're waking up, you're coming out of delta, you're going into theta, you're going into beta, or going into alpha, going into beta. It's just what is happening mechanically in your body. So understanding, like, hey, if I spend those first minutes looking at this stuff, it's a surefire recipe for that. But I'm talking like 5-10 minutes to go outside and look up and activate serotonin from the sky rather than your phone. I'm not talking about like hours,
right?
But finding those pockets and honoring yourself enough, deciding that enough. Like, I don't have to live in anxiety and overwhelm, and I don't have to glorify busy. I think if our society stopped glorifying busy, we'd be in a much, much, much better place. Like, there's nothing glorious about being busy.